The stars hung like scattered diamonds against the void as the research vessel, Asteria, maintained its vigil at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her sensor readings for the third time, her hands trembling slightly as she double-checked the data. The anomaly had appeared 48 hours ago, a distortion in spacetime that defied every known law of physics. Dr. Chen. Captain Rodriguez's voice carried a note of tension. You've been quiet for 10 minutes. What are we looking at? Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. Whatever it is, it's growing. The energy signature. It's unlike anything in our database. The bridge crew of the Asteria fell silent as they watched the phenomenon on their main display. What had started as a pinprick of light was now a swirling vortex of blues and purples, its diameter nearly matching that of Earth's moon. The ship's sensors were flooding with data, recording radiation patterns and gravitational fluctuations that shouldn't have been possible. Multiple contacts emerging. Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the silence. 5. No, 7 vessels. Configuration unknown. The alien ships that emerged from the vortex were beautiful in their otherworldliness, sleek crystalline structures that seemed to have been grown rather than built, their hulls refracting starlight like prismatic glass. Each vessel was easily twice the size of Earth's largest space station, and they moved with a grace that seemed to deny their massive scale. Captain Rodriguez straightened in his chair. Open all frequencies, standard greeting package ready. Remember your first contact protocols. People, this is what we've trained for. The tension on the bridge was palpable as they waited for a response. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. The Asteria's crew of 50 represented the best minds Earth had to offer, carefully selected and trained for just such an encounter. The response, when it came, was perfect, too perfect. The aliens, calling themselves the Calaxians, spoke flawless English through their communications channels. They expressed peaceful intentions, a desire for cultural exchange, and an interest in sharing technology. Their leader, Supreme Commander Vexthor, appeared on the view screen as a tall, elegant humanoid with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she watched the exchange. Something about the Calaxians' perfectly crafted responses and carefully measured enthusiasm set off warning bells in her mind. She'd spent years studying theoretical xenobiology and potential alien psychology. This felt rehearsed, calculated. Over the next 3 months, the Calaxians integrated themselves into human society with remarkable speed. They established embassies on Earth, shared medical technology that cured several forms of cancer, and helped improve Earth's space travel capabilities. World leaders praised the dawn of a new era of prosperity and advancement. Sarah Chen was one of the few who noticed the pattern. Each piece of technology the Calaxians shared seemed specifically chosen, each diplomatic overture carefully calculated. They were mapping Earth's infrastructure, studying human response patterns, and slowly positioning their ships near crucial strategic points throughout the solar system. She took her concerns to Captain Rodriguez, who escalated them through military channels. But in a world euphoric with the promises of alien friendship, few wanted to hear warnings of potential threats. The Calaxians had brought peace, prosperity, and the stars themselves within humanity's reach. How could they possibly mean harm? The answer came exactly 1 year after first contact. The attack began at the outer colonies first. New Mars, Europa Station, and the Titan research base all went dark within hours of each other. The Calaxians dropped their peaceful pretense with the same clinical precision with which they had crafted it. Their crystalline ships, once thought beautiful, revealed their true nature as they unfurled weapon systems that turned entire settlements to ash. The humans recently upgraded defense systems, enhanced with Calaxian technology, proved worse than useless. They shut down completely or turned against their operators. Every weakness, every vulnerability the aliens had discovered during their year of peaceful exchange was exploited with ruthless efficiency. Earth's military responded with everything they had, but their most powerful weapons barely scratched the Calaxian ship's armor. The aliens had spent a year studying human technology, culture, and tactics. They knew exactly how humanity would respond and had prepared accordingly. In the chaos of those first attacks, Sarah Chen found herself aboard one of the few human vessels to survive the initial onslaught. The Asteria, now transformed into a makeshift refugee transport, limped away from the burning ruins of Europa Station with holds full of survivors and a devastating realization. Humanity had been played for fools. But as she watched Earth's forces being systematically decimated on the long-range sensors, Sarah felt something beyond fear or despair. In their arrogance, the Calaxians had made one crucial mistake. They assumed that humanity, once outmaneuvered, would simply submit to defeat. They didn't understand that humans, backed into a corner, were at their most dangerous. As the Asteria fled deeper into the solar system, Sarah began drafting plans on her tablet. The Calaxians had spent a year learning humanity's weaknesses, but they had revealed something of themselves in the process. Their technology, while advanced, followed patterns. Their tactics, while superior, had recognizable logic. Most importantly, their contempt for humanity's capabilities was absolute. And that, she realized, could be turned into a weapon. "Captain," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "I need to show you something. I think I know how we might survive this, and maybe even fight back." The Asteria disappeared into the darkness between the planets, carrying with it not just refugees, but the seeds of humanity's resistance. The Calaxians had started this war with meticulous planning and overwhelming force. They would learn, in time, that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or its weapons, but in its infinite capacity to adapt, to innovate, and to survive. The real war was just beginning. 6 months after the initial Calaxian assault, humanity's last secret research facility lay buried 2 kilometers beneath the Antarctic ice. Project Phoenix, as it had come to be known, represented everything that remained of Earth's hopes for survival. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the facility's central chamber, watching as engineers swarmed over the experimental vessel that dominated the space. The ship looked nothing like traditional human spacecraft. Its hull was composed of overlapping plates that seemed to ripple and shift in the harsh industrial lighting, an organic quality that belied its artificial nature. "Biomimetic adaptive plating," she explained to Admiral James Harrison, who had just arrived for his monthly inspection. "We reversed engineered it from the debris of their smaller ships. The Calaxians think they destroyed all evidence of their technology, but they underestimated how much we could learn from even the smallest fragments." Harrison nodded grimly. Above them, the war continued to go badly. The Calaxians had taken Mars entirely, using it as a forward base for their systematic conquest of the solar system. Earth's remaining military forces fought desperate holding actions, buying time with their lives, while Project Phoenix raced against the clock. "The principle is simple," Sarah continued, leading the Admiral through the facility's laboratories. "The Calaxians' technology isn't actually superior to ours in every way. It's just different. They developed along lines we never considered, just as we've developed technologies they've never imagined. The trick isn't to copy them. It's to understand them well enough to counter them." The facility's research teams had made breakthroughs that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Necessity and desperation had driven innovation at an unprecedented pace. Traditional scientific procedure had given way to a new methodology that combined rapid prototyping, AI-assisted analysis, and insights gained from studying both Calaxian technology and Earth's native biological systems. The heart of Project Phoenix was the quantum entanglement drive, a propulsion system that didn't so much move through space as it convinced space to move around it. The theory had existed in human physics for decades, but it had taken the Calaxian invasion to push humanity into actually building it. "The real breakthrough came when we stopped trying to fight them conventionally," Sarah explained, pulling up a holographic display of the ship's internal systems. Their shields are impenetrable to normal weapons, yes, but they work by predicting incoming attacks and generating countermeasures. We designed our weapons to be fundamentally unpredictable, quantum uncertainty weaponized. The Project Phoenix vessel wasn't just a ship, it was humanity's answer to Calaxian superiority. Every aspect of its design challenged the aliens' assumptions about human capabilities. Its hull could adapt to any attack, its weapons operated on principles the Calaxians had never encountered, and its defensive systems were based on technologies the aliens had dismissed as theoretical. But the ship's true power lay in its integration with its crew. Neural interfaces, more sophisticated than anything humanity had previously developed, would allow the crew to react at speeds that could match and exceed Calaxian response times. The ship would become an extension of their consciousness, guided by human intuition and creativity, rather than the rigid logical patterns the Calaxians relied upon. "How many people know about this?" Harrison asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Less than 100, Sarah replied. "We've maintained total communications blackout. As far as the Calaxians know, this facility was destroyed in their initial attack. Every other research center we've lost has been a calculated sacrifice, feeding them data that reinforces their belief in our technological inferiority." The deception had been costly. Hundreds of Earth's best scientists had died maintaining the illusion of humanity's desperate, failing resistance. Each defeat had been carefully staged to convince the Calaxians that their victory was inevitable, while the real work continued in secret beneath the ice. The project had not been without its setbacks. The first prototype had killed its pilot, the neural interface overloading his brain in seconds. The second had imploded when its quantum fields collapsed. Each failure had taught them something new. Each setback had been transformed into an advantage. Human persistence, the ability to learn from failure rather than be defeated by it, had proven to be their greatest asset. "We're almost ready," Sarah said, leading Harrison to the ship's bridge. "The neural interfaces are stable now. The quantum drive is functioning within acceptable parameters. We've run every simulation we can think of. The only thing left is to actually test it in combat." Harrison studied the bridge layout, noting how different it was from traditional spacecraft design. Instead of individual stations, the command center was arranged in a circular pattern, allowing the neural interfaces to create a shared consciousness among the bridge crew. They would think and react as one, guided by human intuition, but operating at machine speeds. "And you're certain about the crew selection?" Harrison asked. Sarah nodded. "We needed people who could think creatively under pressure, who could adapt to completely new ways of operating." Traditional military experience was less important than psychological flexibility and innovative thinking. "The Calaxians expect us to fight like soldiers. We've assembled a crew of artists, musicians, and theoretical physicists." The crew had been training for months, learning to work as a single entity through the neural interface. They had developed their own language of thought and movement, a way of communicating that transcended normal human limitations. They were no longer just individuals. They were becoming something new, something the Calaxians couldn't predict. "One ship," Harrison mused, shaking his head. "One ship against their entire fleet. One ship is all we need," Sarah replied, her voice firm. The Calaxians based their entire strategy on their understanding of human capabilities. They think they know exactly what we can and cannot do. This ship, this crew, they're about to prove every one of those assumptions wrong. As if in response to her words, the ship's hull rippled, its adaptive plating shifting in patterns that mimicked the flow of water. In less than a week, it would be ready for its first real combat test. The Calaxians had no idea what was coming. They had spent months methodically conquering human territory, secure in their technological superiority. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon had never been its technology. It was its ability to transform defeat into opportunity, to find strength in desperation, and to evolve beyond its own limitations. Project Phoenix was more than a ship or a weapon. It was humanity's statement to the universe. Underestimate us at your peril. The Calaxian assault on Jupiter's moons marked the beginning of their final push toward Earth. Their crystalline warships moved through space with practiced precision, their formation a deadly dance of light and shadow. To any observer, it would have appeared beautiful, if not for the trail of destruction they left in their wake. Commander Elena Santos watched the tactical display from her position on the Phoenix's bridge, her mind linked to the ship through its neural interface. Around her, the rest of the bridge crew sat in their circular configuration, their consciousness merged into a single coordinated awareness. Through their shared neural link, she could feel their collective tension, their determination, and beneath it all, their carefully controlled fear. Ganymede has fallen, the ship's AI announced, its voice a neutral counterpoint to the gravity of its words. Calaxian forces are proceeding to Europa. Estimated time until they reach Earth's orbit: 72 hours. Elena felt Dr. Chen's presence beside her. The scientist's thoughts a complex weave of calculations and contingencies in their shared mental space. The neural interface translated Sarah's scientific insights into tactical data that the entire crew could instantly understand and act upon. It was unlike anything humanity had ever achieved before, a perfect fusion of human intuition and machine precision. They're moving faster than we anticipated. Sarah's thoughts echoed through their shared consciousness. Their confidence has made them aggressive. They think they've already won. The Phoenix hung in the shadow of Saturn's rings, hidden from Calaxian sensors by a combination of advanced stealth technology and the natural interference from the ice particles. For weeks, they had been watching, learning, analyzing every detail of Calaxian battle tactics. The alien fleet's movements were precise, mathematically perfect, and therefore predictable to those who understood the underlying patterns. Through the neural interface, Elena accessed the ship's quantum sensors, studying the Calaxian fleet's energy signatures. Their shields operated on principles that had seemed magical a year ago, but now she could see the patterns, the rhythms, the mathematical choreography that governed their defensive systems. More importantly, she could see the gaps, microscopic moments of vulnerability that occurred when they transitioned between different shield configurations. They're not just attacking, Elena shared through the neural link. They're showing off. Every movement is calculated to demonstrate their superiority. They want us to see how hopeless resistance is. The Calaxians had grown complacent in their victory. Their initial caution had given way to theatrical displays of power, each conquest more elaborate than the last. They no longer bothered to mask their movements or maintain backup positions. Why should they? Human resistance had been crushed everywhere they went, their weapons bouncing harmlessly off Calaxian shields, their strategies falling apart in the face of superior technology. But the Phoenix was different. Its quantum weapons were designed to exploit those fractional moments of shield transition. Its biomimetic hull could adapt to any attack pattern, learning and evolving in real time. Most importantly, its human crew, linked through the neural interface, could think and react with a creativity that no Calaxian battle computer could match. Admiral Harrison's last transmission confirmed that Earth's remaining forces are in position. Sarah's thoughts filtered through the link. They're ready to play their part. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Earth's defenders would mount what would appear to be a final desperate stand, exactly the kind of futile resistance the Calaxians had come to expect. The aliens would deploy their standard attack pattern, confident in their shield's ability to neutralize any human weapon. They would never suspect that every human ship, every weapon, every desperate attack was carefully choreographed to force specific shield transitions at specific moments. The entire defense was designed not to defeat the Calaxians, but to make them move exactly the way the Phoenix needed them to move. We've studied every battle, Elena reminded her crew through the neural link. Every defeat, every loss has taught us something about how they think, how they fight. They believe they understand human capabilities completely. That certainty is their weakness. Through their shared consciousness, the crew began final preparations. The quantum drive hummed to life, its energy signature masked by the surrounding ice particles. The weapon systems, each one a testament to human ingenuity pushed to its absolute limits, waited in standby mode. They watched through their quantum sensors as the Calaxian fleet methodically reduced Europa's defenses to rubble. The aliens' energy weapons carved through hardened bunkers and defense platforms with mechanical efficiency. Their communications channels broadcasted their victory pronouncements on all frequencies, ensuring that Earth could witness its inevitable defeat. "They expect us to fight like humans," Alina thought to her crew. "Instead, we're going to show them something they've never seen before. We're going to show them humanity's true potential." The neural interface hummed with shared purpose as the crew merged their consciousness more deeply with the ship's systems. They were no longer simply human, no longer bound by normal limitations of reaction time and coordination. They had become something new, a hybrid of human creativity and machine precision that defied Calaxian assumptions about what was possible. In orbit around Earth, the remaining human forces began their carefully planned last stand. Warships moved into defensive formations, ground-based weapons powered up, and emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels with desperate pleas and defiant last messages. Everything designed to reinforce what the Calaxians already believed, that humanity was beaten, that their victory was assured. They had no way of knowing that every human ship, every weapon, every transmission was part of an elaborate trap. They couldn't suspect that their greatest triumph was about to become their first real defeat. As the Calaxian fleet began their final approach to Earth, Alina felt the Phoenix's systems align with her crew's shared consciousness. They were ready. In a few hours, the aliens would learn that they had made the same mistake so many others had made throughout human history. They had assumed that humanity's current limitations were its permanent limitations. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The moment of engagement arrived with theatrical precision. The Calaxian fleet descended upon Earth's orbital defense line, exactly as predicted, their crystalline ships arranging themselves in their signature attack formation. Through the Phoenix's quantum sensors, Alina and her neural-linked crew watched the alien shield harmonics pulse in predictable patterns. All human forces are in position. The ship's AI confirmed. The Calaxians are deploying as anticipated. Through the neural interface, Alina felt her crew's collective consciousness align with the ship's systems. The quantum drive thrummed beneath them, ready to execute maneuvers that would have been impossible with conventional technology. Every weapon was primed, each one designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities in Calaxian defensive systems. "They're starting their attack run," Sarah's thoughts echoed through their shared awareness. Shield transitions in 3, 2, 1. The Phoenix burst from its hiding place in Saturn's rings, crossing the vast distance, almost instantly as its quantum drive bent space around it. To the Calaxian sensors, it would have appeared as if a human warship had materialized from nowhere directly in their formation's weak point. The aliens' response was immediate and predictable. Their shields shifting to maximum power, their weapons arrays charging. But the Phoenix was already moving again, its biomimetic hull rippling as it adapted to the energy patterns around it. Through the neural interface, Alina and her crew could see the mathematical poetry of the aliens' defensive systems, could predict the microseconds when their shields would shift configuration. Now, Alina thought, and the Phoenix fired. The quantum weapons struck precisely. As the Calaxian shields transitioned, the impossibly small window of vulnerability exploited with inhuman precision. The result was devastating. 3 alien ships, each one previously considered invincible to human weapons, shattered into crystalline fragments. Confusion rippled through the Calaxian fleet. Their formation wavered as they attempted to adapt to this impossible development. Their battle computers, programmed with countless victories over human forces, struggled to categorize what they were seeing. The Phoenix moved like nothing they had ever encountered, its trajectory defying their predictive algorithms. Its weapons bypassed their shields in ways their defensive computers couldn't explain. Most disconcertingly, it seemed to anticipate their responses before they made them. Through the neural interface, Alina felt a grim satisfaction from her crew. Months of preparation, years of accumulated knowledge about Calaxian tactics, all culminating in this moment. The aliens had grown predictable in their superiority, their strategies calcifying into rigid patterns. They had forgotten one of the fundamental rules of warfare. Never let your enemy know exactly what you're going to do. Earth's remaining forces launched their coordinated attack, each ship and weapon platform executing their precisely timed roles. To the Calaxians, it appeared to be exactly the kind of desperate last stand they expected, until they realized that every human attack was forcing them to shift their shields in specific ways, creating patterns of vulnerability that the Phoenix exploited with devastating effect. They're attempting to regroup, Sarah observed through the neural link. Their battle computers are trying to generate new strategies, but the Phoenix was already moving again, its quantum drive allowing it to appear wherever the Calaxians were most vulnerable. Its biomimetic hull adapted to each new weapon they tried, learning and evolving faster than their computers could analyze. The neural-linked crew acted with perfect coordination, their human creativity enhanced by machine precision. The Calaxian fleet's formation began to break down. Ships collided as they attempted to execute defensive maneuvers their battle computers hadn't properly calculated. Their perfectly coordinated attack patterns dissolved into individual ships trying to survive an enemy they couldn't predict or understand. Through the quantum sensors, Alina watched as the aliens attempted to adapt their tactics. But every new strategy they tried had already been anticipated. Every countermeasure they deployed created new vulnerabilities for the Phoenix to exploit. The aliens had spent so long fighting a predictable enemy that they had forgotten how to handle an unpredictable one. They're broadcasting retreat signals, the ship's AI announced. The Calaxian fleet began to pull back, their once perfect formation now a chaotic scramble for safety. Ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving their wounded behind in their haste to escape. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were running. But Alina and her crew weren't finished. The Phoenix pursued the retreating aliens, its quantum drive allowing it to intercept ships before they could escape. Each engagement was precisely calculated, each destroyed ship adding to the Calaxians' growing panic. We're not just beating them. Sarah's thoughts resonated through the neural link. We're teaching them something they never expected to learn. Fear. The remaining Calaxian ships fled in different directions, their coordinated fleet tactics abandoned in favor of individual survival. They had arrived as conquerors, secure in their technological superiority. They were leaving as fugitives, their assumptions about human capabilities shattered as completely as their crystalline ships. As the last Calaxian warship disappeared from sensor range, Alina felt her crew's collective exhaustion through the neural interface. They had trained for this moment for months, but the reality of neural-linked combat had demanded everything they had. Yet beneath the fatigue was a fierce pride. They had proved that humanity could not only fight back, but win. Send the signal to Earth, Alina thought through the neural link. Tell them the Phoenix has risen. The message would spread quickly through the solar system. Humanity had not only survived, but had turned the tide. The Calaxians would return, of course, but they would return knowing that their victory was no longer certain. They would come back facing a humanity that had evolved beyond their expectations, that had transformed defeat into the catalyst for unprecedented advancement. The war wasn't over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. The Calaxians had wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Instead, they had learned a lesson as old as Earth itself. Never corner a species that specializes in adapting and overcoming. The Phoenix hung in Earth orbit, its biomimetic hull reflecting the planet's blue light. It was more than a ship now. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience, its capacity to rise from defeat stronger than before. The real question was no longer whether humanity would survive, but what it would become in the process of fighting back. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the transformed solar system bore little resemblance to the one the Calaxians had first invaded. Humanity had not simply survived, it had evolved. The technological breakthroughs born from desperation had become the foundation for a new era of human advancement. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Orbital Defense Command, watching as more ships like the Phoenix took shape in the shipyards above Earth. Each vessel incorporated improvements based on lessons learned from that first decisive battle. The neural interface technology had been refined, the quantum drives made more efficient, the biomimetic hulls more responsive. The Calaxians are gathering at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, Commander Elena Santos reported, entering the command center. She moved with the fluid grace of someone long accustomed to neural interfaces, her consciousness still partially linked to the Phoenix's systems, even planet-side. Our long-range sensors suggest they're bringing reinforcements. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. They're not used to failure. Their entire society is built on the assumption of their technological superiority. We didn't just defeat them. We challenged their fundamental understanding of their place in the universe. The returning Calaxian fleet was larger than the first, but humanity was no longer the same enemy they had first encountered. Every human settlement from Mercury to the Kuiper Belt now bristled with quantum-based defenses. The neural interface technology had spread beyond military applications, transforming everything from space construction to scientific research. Most importantly, humanity had learned to think differently. The rigid divisions between military and civilian, between scientific disciplines, between human and machine intelligence, all had given way to new forms of cooperation and innovation. The Phoenix hadn't just demonstrated a new way to fight, it had shown a new way to exist. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Elena announced. They're requesting diplomatic contact. Sarah turned from the viewport, a slight smile playing at her lips. Are they now? That's quite a change from their usual approach. The message was being transmitted in multiple human languages, its tone markedly different from the imperious demands of their first contact. The Calaxians were requesting, not demanding, a dialogue. They spoke of mutual understanding, of diplomatic solutions, of the possibility of cooperation rather than conflict. They've realized something fundamental has changed, Sarah observed. They came expecting to find us cowering in fear of their return. Instead, they found a solar system transformed, defended by technology they barely understand. We're not prey anymore. We're equals, maybe more than equals. Through her neural link, Elena accessed the tactical displays showing the disposition of Earth's new defenses. Dozens of Phoenix-class ships patrolled the solar system, each crewed by neural-linked teams that could think and react with superhuman speed and coordination. Quantum weapon platforms orbited every major planet and moon, their capabilities far beyond anything the Calaxians had encountered in their first invasion. But the real changes weren't military. Humanity had taken the technologies developed for war and transformed them into tools for exploration and advancement. Neural-linked research teams made breakthrough discoveries daily. Quantum drives were being adapted for deep space exploration. The biomimetic materials originally designed for warship hulls were finding applications in everything from medicine to environmental restoration. We should accept their request for diplomacy, Sarah said finally. Not because we fear them, but because we've moved beyond fear. We've proven we can fight them if necessary. Now let's prove we can do more than that. The decision rippled through Earth's leadership. Within hours, arrangements were being made for a diplomatic meeting. This time on human terms, in human space. The Calaxians would come not as conquerors, but as equals, forced to acknowledge that their understanding of humanity's potential had been catastrophically wrong. As Sarah watched the preparations unfold, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The Calaxians had intended to demonstrate humanity's weakness, to prove their own superiority. Instead, they had become the catalyst for humanity's greatest leap forward. Every assumption they had made about human limitations had been proven wrong. Every advantage they thought they held had been matched and exceeded. We should thank them, in a way Elena mused, standing beside Sarah at the viewport. Their invasion forced us to push beyond our own preconceptions about what was possible. We didn't just survive. We transcended. Below them, Earth gleamed blue and white against the darkness of space, but it was no longer a vulnerable jewel to be protected. It was the heart of something new, a civilization that had learned to combine human creativity with machine precision, that had transformed defeat into transcendence, that had proven itself capable of not just surviving but evolving beyond any aggressor's expectations. The Phoenix program had started as humanity's last hope for survival. It had become something far more, a bridge to a future where humanity's potential was limited only by its imagination. The Calaxians had come to teach humanity its place in the cosmos. Instead, they had learned a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never underestimate a species that thrives on overcoming its limitations. As the diplomatic preparations continued, Sarah thought about the message they were really sending to the galaxy. It wasn't just about military strength or technological advancement. It was about humanity's core nature, its ability to adapt, to innovate, to transform defeat into opportunity. The Phoenix hadn't just saved humanity. It had revealed humanity's true nature to the stars. The war was ending not with humanity's submission, as the Calaxians had planned, but with humanity's ascension to a new level of existence. And as Sarah watched the first diplomatic vessels approach, she knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had found its wings in the crucible of invasion, and now the entire galaxy waited to see how far it would fly. The legacy of the Phoenix would echo through human history not as a weapon of war, but as the moment humanity proved its true potential to the cosmos. It was a legacy of resilience, of innovation, and of the indomitable spirit that had always defined the human species. The stars were waiting, and humanity was ready to rise.